Hi there, my name is Alicia and I'm here to help you improve your Spanish skills. In this video, you're going to learn intensively the most important verbs in Spanish. So you're going to, boost your vocabulary in short minutes. Okay, so let's begin with a short introduction. In this guide for English speakers, you will learn the basic vocabulary of Spanish verbs for these topics: the basics, movement, communication, daily life, spare time, abstracts too. So you're going to learn a lot, don't worry, because all the verbs that you see here, they are useful for your daily life. You do not need to have prior knowledge of Spanish for this guide, but even if you do speak a little Spanish, the information can be helpful. This video can help you refresh your memory. And you also have a list of vocabulary, exercises with answers, MP3 and other free materials to practice. So in the video description below, you will find a link to the blog where you will find a lot of materials that will help you understand better everything that you're going to see in this video, because learning vocabulary takes a little time. So this video is really short, but you may want to, dedicate some more minutes to memorize all these new words that you're going to learn. Okay, so take a look at the blog here. You have the link below. We are going to start with the basics, básicos. And in Spanish, we have to be twice, because we have ser and we also have estar. Both of them are translated in English as to be, but in Spanish they are a little different. We are not going to learn grammar in this video, so we'll leave it for another time. But so you know, ser, estar both have the meaning of to be. Then you have to have, and in Spanish this is tener. For example, tengo familia, I have a family. But you also have to have in Spanish as haber. But this haber is used, for instance, I have been busy lately. In this kind of sentences, you would use haber. But if you're saying, what you have in your life, then you're going to use tener. Okay, this haber is not common for that kind of things. And if you want to say there is or there are in Spanish, you're going to say hay. Okay? And to want in Spanish, you say querer. And to be able to, you say poder. So I can, you're going to use poder to express that in Spanish. All right? And then you have some other verbs that are really important, like to order something. For example, at a restaurant, then you have pedir. Pedir also has the meaning of to ask for something. Okay, but in the restaurant, I believe you want to order food, so you're going to use pedir. And to need in Spanish is necesitar. If you want to say to look for something or someone, you say buscar in Spanish. Then you have to give, and in Spanish it is dar. To use in Spanish you say usar. To do or to make in Spanish the verb is hacer. And to take in Spanish is tomar. Tomar is very general, okay? And it's better to use tomar. You can use coger too, but beware, because coger is a very obscene word in some countries in Latin America. So coger, it's better not to use it. In Spain, I use it the whole time. Everybody uses, no problem, coger in Spain, but in Latin America, avoid it and use tomar instead. To take, okay, to take the bus, tomar el bus, and you are done, okay? And it means also to grab something with your hands, okay, so tomar, okay? And you also have to touch, which is tocar, okay? So verbs that are really important. I believe you are going to like to learn them. Here you have all of them one more time. I'm not going to read them with you because I don't want this video to be too long. I have a lot of material for you, so I'm going to focus on the new words in our time together. So let's see, movimiento, movement. What verbs do we have that indicate some kind of movement? You have to go. Generally in Spanish you say ir. Then you also have to come. To come has the meaning of venir in Spanish. And also to leave in Spanish is partir, to depart. Okay? You also have to arrive. In Spanish, you say llegar. You have to come back, which has the meaning of volver in Spanish. To stay, in Spanish, you say quedarse. And you can also say permanecer, but in the daily communication, quedarse is more common. To go, in Spanish, is andar very generally. Okay, so you see, andar is another way of saying ir. It's the same. Okay, generally speaking. You can say to run in Spanish by saying correr. To go for a walk, you say caminar. Okay, so caminar is always to go on foot somewhere. To drive, in Spanish, you say conducir. In Spain, manejar in Latin America. To ride a bike, in Spanish, you say ir en bici. To travel, in Spanish, you say viajar. To put, in Spanish, you have this simple verb, poner. And to go out or to get out, you say in Spanish, salir. And the contrary, the opposite of that, is to come in. So to get in Spanish, you say entrar. Then you have to open. In Spanish, it is abrir. Its opposite to close is cerrar. To go up, in Spanish, you say subir. To go down, in Spanish, you say bajar. And these are the verbs that indicate movement in Spanish, the most important ones. And now let's talk about the communication, la comunicación. You have to know. To know has the meaning of saber in Spanish. But in English, you have to know, only to know. In Spanish, we have saber and we also have conocer. The difference between them is that saber is more a kind of theoretical knowledge, and conocer is more practical knowledge. You know someone or you know a place, for example. Then you have to learn, and in Spanish we have two words for it. You have aprender and estudiar. Okay, so aprender, estudiar, they have the same meaning, to learn something. You also have estudiar when you want to say to study. For example, if you study at a university, you can say that too. But estudiar is generally to learn something. Then you have to read, and in Spanish you have leer. To write is escribir. And then you have to take notes. In Spanish you say apuntar. To talk, to speak, you have in Spanish hablar. So generally talking, blah, 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 you say hablar. And also to speak a language, hablar español, for example, to speak Spanish. And to say, when you have something to say, then you have decir in Spanish. To hear, you have escuchar. And to listen, you have oír. They are more or less synonyms too. To understand, in Spanish, you say entender. And another word to say the same thing is comprender. Entender, comprender, to understand. To explain, in Spanish, explicar. To translate, in Spanish, you say traducir. To call someone over the phone, you have llamar. Por teléfono. You can add por teléfono, but normally it's clear that you're talking about ringing someone. To ask, in Spanish, you say preguntar. To answer, the word is responder in Spanish. To send, you have in Spanish enviar, and to receive, recibir. So here you have all the same words and a new topic that is going to be your daily life, vida diaria. And you have to live, in Spanish, vivir. To die, morir. To work, in Spanish, you say trabajar. To rest, descansar. To sleep, in Spanish, you say dormir. To wake up, in Spanish, you say despertarse. To stand up, you say levantarse. To shower, in Spanish, ducharse. To wash oneself, well, lavarse. To go to the bathroom, in Spanish, you say ir al baño. To get dressed, vestirse. To eat, you say in Spanish, comer. To drink, in Spanish, you say beber. To cook, you say cocinar. To buy, in Spanish, the word is comprar. To sell, vender. To take the transport, you say tomar el transporte. You see, one more time, this tomar is a very useful verb in Spanish. We use it very, very often. And new topic is going to be tiempo libre. What do you do when you have nothing to do? Spare time. So you have to exercise in Spanish is hacer deporte. To play video games, jugar a videojuegos. Jugar is to play football or to play a game. But if you play an instrument, you're going to say in Spanish, tocar un instrumento. To paint is pintar. To dance, bailar. To sing, cantar. To listen to music, in Spanish you say escuchar música. To party, you say salir de fiesta. Ver la tele, in Spanish, is to watch TV. Okay? So, here I wrote it in Spanish. Okay, so it's to watch TV. I'm sorry. I'll correct this. Ver la tele. And ver is the same thing as mirar. Okay, so the meaning is the same. To see, to watch. Okay? Then you have to meet friends. And in Spanish you say encontrarse con amigos. And we are going to see these words one more time. And now you're going to see the verbs that have an abstract meaning. Okay? So let's see them together. To think in Spanish is pensar. And to believe in Spanish you say creer. To accept in Spanish the verb is aceptar. And to reject the verb in Spanish is rechazar. To cancel, quite simple, cancelar. And to make an appointment, you say concertar una cita. But pay attention because cita has a meaning of an appointment with the doctor, but also a date. So here in this situation, it would be understood as an appointment, okay? But if you say, I have a date, tengo una cita, it will be understood depending on the context that you have a rendezvous with someone. To meet someone, a friend, for example, you're going to say quedar con alguien in Spanish. Okay, this is very general. And to like in Spanish, you have gustar. To love, it is encantar. When you talk about your likes and dislikes, okay, gustar, you like, encantar, you like it very, very much. Then you have to detest, in Spanish, detestar. To hate, odiar. To be happy in Spanish is alegrarse. It's actually a process, okay? So you get happy about something, alegrarse. And then you have to be sad or to get sad, and then you say entristecerse. To be excited, you say emocionarse. It's not a perfect translation because sometimes the languages, they don't have a perfect equivalence one-on-one, okay? So to be excited, to be happy about something, emocionarse in Spanish is that you have feelings, you have emotions, so boiling up, okay? Emocionarse. And then you have to be called, that in Spanish, llamarse, okay? So yo me llamo is the way of phrasing in Spanish. My name is, I am called this way. In English you wouldn't phrase it this way, but in Spanish, yo me llamo, my name is. And also to love, you have the verb amar. But people don't use it very often, amar in Spanish, okay? When you love someone, your soulmate, you're going to say te quiero. Okay, I love you is te quiero. Te amo, you can say that, but it doesn't sound quite right. It sounds a little dramatic and a little strange. Okay, so amar, it's a verb. It exists in the Spanish language, but if you're declaring your love to someone or you're saying that you love your family, for example, you would say querer instead of amar. Okay, it's what a native would say. Right, so these are the verbs that we just saw right now. And at the end of the material that you can download for free, as I told you in the video description, you'll find the link to it. You'll find the activities to, well, help you memorize better all these new words. And you see all of them are very relevant, are verbs that you're going to need in your daily interactions in Spanish. If you liked this video, like it, and also leave a comment if you think that, well, maybe something is missing or you want to learn also new words. Just tell me your ideas and I'll be happy to hear from you. And to keep on learning Spanish a very communicatively way, then you can also subscribe to the channel. Okay, so I hope you liked learning these verbs in our time together, and I hope you have great fun practicing all this new information. Gracias y chao.